Okay, so that's basically what we are going to talk about in this class. In most of the papers that looks at the relationship between education and earnings have found that there's a positive association, right? Education basically increases earnings, and this is robust. You know what robust means? Basically, in statistical terms, it means that they have tried many sample sizes in different countries, in different settings, for different occupation groups, different areas, but the same association stays, and it stays significant. There is a positive significant association between level of education and earning, irrespective of the sample size, the area, the country, so age group, right? So for every way you can dissect any data set, you will always find that there is this positive association. So this is a very, very important um, findings in labor market, that this is always true. Now the magnitude may differ. So let's say, like, for engineers, one more year of education, right? Maybe one extra master's degree or one extra certification program, how does it impact their earning versus, like you know one extra year of education going from the 12th grade to college, first year of college? So these may actually vary, right? How, but the association is there, but how each year of education is going to impact the earning level, that might actually vary. There are different variation, in the levels, depending on which level you're talking about. Okay, and like any investment, right, initially there is a big jump in return, but eventually it tapers off. So if there's a, if you go from like zero level of education to 12th grade, right? At least 12th grade of education, there is some significant increase in your earnings. If you go from 12th grade to college, bachelor's degree, there is some significant increase in earning. But then what happens is, from bachelor's to master's there is not much increase, and then from master's to PhD there might be some increase, but then what happens for the second PhD or a second program after PhD, there is not much return. So it increases definitely at sharply at the beginning, but eventually, like any investment, if you keep on investing, what will happen is, we will see some diminishing returns. Okay, so this is true for even for education. Okay, so let's see, what does the human capital model talks about. We know that in growth models, what we see that labor and capital, entrepreneurship, right? These are basically the three factors of production. That is, capital can be financial and physical, right? These are the most important determinants of growth. If the country has a lot of financial capital or physical capital, a lot of resources, right, and the workforce is skilled, the country is expected to grow at a higher rate. Okay, at this point, there was no distinction between, human capital. All labor were treated as same, right? All the workers were homogeneous. They can, either, in an advanced country, or there was no distinction between, the human capital. They were treated same. So there was no, in the regression models, when they looked at the impact of labor in growth, they didn't distinguish between, how skilled the individual is, the education level of the individual. So what happens is, but it became increasingly noticeable to the economists that actually the level of human capital matters. Not all workers are homogeneous. So if a country that is very highly educated, and not only just educated, because there are lots of papers that looks at the quality of education also. So education doesn't mean some diploma, it also means the skill set of the workforce. So if a country is more productive, in the labor force is more productive, the return is very high, so the growth rate is going to be significantly higher. So there's a increase in rate of growth. Okay, so once this is realized, what happened is, like, the World Bank and the IMF, when they started giving, development prescription to the developing world, they started saying, like, okay, invest in your education, right? because education will bring you out of poverty. So then the government started thinking, okay, so there was the massive expansion in investment in schooling from primary and secondary, right? But not so much tertiary. Okay. So all the poor countries, they started building schools at the primary level and the secondary level. There was a lot of investment, but not so much at the tertiary level. Some countries actually had a balance sort of, because once the students go from primary to secondary, they have to move on to tertiary. So if you make the, like, there's not many tertiary schools, that will create problem. So if you look at Bangladesh, this is the problem that we are facing. We, we did not have many public universities. So what happened after second, after passing HSC, the 12th grade exam, not many students could enroll, so they had to go to vocational or something or drop out. Okay. And then the private universities started emerging, and they, fill the vacuum to some extent. But again, there's a lot of quality differences in the private universities. Still the public universities are deemed so called, private universities are better, they are of better quality than the private, which is again questionable, because no one is testing, the quality, no quality assessment is being done. But in general, that's the perception of the people, which may or may not be true. That is not the purpose of our topic. But that created a problem. But if you look at India's example, what they did is they not only invest in primary and secondary, they heavily invested in tertiary level of education, right? As a result, what happened is, if you look at their growth rate versus the growth rate of Bangladesh, it increased. There's a marked difference. The reason is they had skilled labor force, and their labor force actually are much more, they have much more human capital in that sense compared to us. So their growth rate per capita terms, I'm not, because India is a big country, right? So obviously their GDP is going to be much bigger than ours, but per capita sense it's higher because they have greater investment in education. Okay. So that's when the government started investing in education, and also, like healthcare. The reason is health is also part of human capital. It started at the same time around 70s, 80s. It became very important. If you're investing in a project, right? If you know that if you invest in project A, you can reap the benefits for a longer period of time, let's say 30, 40 years. Versus if you invest the same money in a project that will only give you benefit for 2, 3 years. Okay. So you'll be reluctant to invest in the second project, because you know that it's not going to give you return for 2, 3 years, only 2, 3 years. So you'll be more interested in investing in the project that gives you a benefit over a longer period of time. So that's when, with this concept, this sort of modeling, healthcare became very important, because life expectancy was very low initially. Okay. So people died early, and that's why they thought that investing in education is futile, because if I invest, and it takes time to be in school, right? So if I start, if I am staying in school for 10 plus 12 plus 16 years, right? And then if I live till 32, I can only work for gain this benefit of higher return of my college degree only for 10, 15 years. Okay. But if you live longer, if you live longer up to 80, 90, you can reap the benefit for a longer period of time. So then when life expectancy started increasing with the advent of medical innovation, people started investing in education, because then they can reap a higher benefit for a longer period of time. Okay. So these are certain changes that happened, and then the modeling is also change. But again, at the individual level, the person has to decide, should I actually invest in education or not, this additional education at the marginal sense. When should one go for education or not, right? Education, mean it can be high school, it can be college, it can be a PhD, right? So all of you, in your case, all of you are in college right now. So once you are college, meaning bachelor's, university right now. So once you're done with your bachelor's degree, the question comes, Should you stop your education over here, or will you go for a master's degree or not? Okay. So this is a question that everybody, all of you will face. And how do you decide? You will decide based on if you complete you're standing in your graduation day, you're standing in your graduation day, and you're thinking, if I do my masters, if I invest 2 years into masters, what is my net benefit? But I'm not going to reap the benefit for only, like, 2 3 periods, but till my entire career, till I die, I'm going to receive some benefits if I invest in this education. Okay. So what is that benefit? I have to bring that benefit to the current day, right? Bring the present value of that future stream of benefits. At the same time, these 2 years, right, education is not free. So if I invest in my masters, I have to pay tuition, and I could have worked. I'm giving up my opportunity cost of my time. So there is some cost associated with it. And I bring that cost again, the present value of cost on your graduation day. And then you look at, compare the present value of the benefits and the present value of the cost, and decide, right, like, to invest in a master's degree as long as the benefit outweighs the cost. Okay. So some cost is basically the direct cost, tuition, books, supplies, all, etc. And the cost is foregone earnings, because the 2 years you are going to, like, study for your masters, you could have worked, and so these 2 years worth of salary you're giving up. Not only salary, because your 2 years of experience at the end of third year, since you have 2 years, you might actually move on to a higher, you might be promoted and move to a higher income stream. And also there are psychic costs, like, masters is going to be more difficult, so, like, again, like, 2 more years of stress, thinking about grades and all sorts of things, right? I'm going to a college somewhere, leaving family behind. So these are lots of costs that you have to think about. And then what is the benefit of getting higher education, right? So higher expected earnings. With higher education, you expect that you will get a higher salary stream. You might get a more pleasant, more, like, high collar job. And then you won't face the uncertainty of unemployment, and also some psychic benefit, because once you have, like, you have your own job, you are on your own feet, you don't have to depend on anyone, you feel empowered, right? You can take responsibilities and for yourself and your family. These gives you certain sort of benefits. So these are also certain benefits of getting an education. Now look at this situation, like, let's say, like, you are, so this is basically when you decided to go for your 4 years of bachelor's degree. So this model is talking about that. So you're 18 right now. Think of yourself when you're 18. You are deciding whether to drop out, right, after and then start immediately working, or actually, like, invest 4 years in college. If you invest 4 years in college, 18 to 22, you will be in college. You have to pay direct cost, which is the negative, of course, right? If earnings is on the y-axis, direct cost is a negative earning. So basically, direct cost. At the same time, like, you have some foregone earnings. So at 18, if you start working, look at this line, earning with high school degrees. So remember, these models are for US, as only very few people go to universities in US. So what happens? They drop out at 18 and they start, like, working. So this is their earning stream. This green line is their earning stream with high school degrees, and so they will keep on working till, like, let's say this is age is 65 when they retire. So this line, let me see if I can get the line over here. So this is the retirement line. Okay, so let's say this is age 65. So you'll retire in 65, you start working from 18, and then you basically work till 65. Why is this curve a little, it's not entirely horizontal, right? There's this little slightly upward sloping, even though it's almost flat. This is because with years of experience, you do see increases in your income. But because you are stuck with you have only high school degree, it's not that you will be promoted significantly. So basically, even though there is some rise in your income stream in your future years as you age, that's because you are gaining experience. So this return is a return for your experience. And the other income stream is when you invest in your education. So you invest 4 years from 18 to 22. And we expect that obviously with higher income, you start off, look at the like vertical intercept. So we expect that you start off with higher salary than your just 18 high school degree. So basically, and then you start working and look at these, the purple line, right? You can see that it has a greater slope than this one, because we believe that with a college degree, a bachelor's degree, you will start off with a higher income stream and you continue to increase, like, get promoted and earn more and more. Okay, so that the slope is actually, like, significantly positive. What happens is, both of you retire at this age. So the two things are basically the cost, right? The cost is your direct cost and your foregone earning, and this part should not be read. So let me just, so think of this, starting from like this line, starting from here, this part, this part should not be read. Okay, so ignore this part. So, like, this is your income stream going this way, and the foregone earning, this should be the cost. So this area is the cost of what earning you have given up, because you could have earned that, you're giving this up, and this is your direct cost. So this red area is the direct cost, and this is your gross benefit of earning, because you, like, it says that initially there's some rise, but it flattens out. So they are saying that, like, at some point initially you might, because they already have 4 or 5 years of experience, so they might actually even have some, like, higher return, but not necessarily so, right? It may be that the intercept of this college earning might be actually starting from, like, at a higher income stream. So it doesn't necessarily have to cross somewhere, rather it can actually start from a higher intercept, which is the norm. Okay, this is the extreme, like, situation where you be, this is US scenario, because what happens is most of the people are uneducated. With experience, they become promoted of managers of Walmart or some manufacturing job. They become, like, promoted because of experience, right? But usually these are older models. Now basically the income stream with college diploma starts from a higher intercept. Okay, but you get the idea. So the difference between, after 22, the difference between the two earning stream, right, is going to get your gross benefit, and then you have your cost structure. So now you're deciding on 18 whether to invest in education or not. So all you have to do is bring the cost, the next 4 years of cost, to the present. So you have to use present value formula to bring the cost down to 18. And also you have to bring the benefit from starting from age 22 to 65, all the benefit, net benefit, right? You have to bring in the net benefit to the present at 18, and then you compare the present value of both and see whether to invest in your education or not. All right, so this is pretty straightforward, and then I'm going to use the whiteboard for a little bit. Okay, so let's assume with high school your salary is HS, right? All right, and with university degree, your salary CS. All right. So you're at age 18, right? You're starting at age 18 and you will work till 65. So in your age 19, you will get HS, right? The next year. And then you will get HS divided by 1 plus R, right? And so basically, and then the next year you will get HS into 1 plus R. How do I put square over here? Does it let me use this? No, it doesn't let me. So this is going to be square or square. How do I put square? I'm just going to write square. Okay, so 1 plus R square. Okay, plus HS divided by 1 plus R cube, and so on and so forth. Okay, till what age? Can someone tell me? What is 65 minus 19? Does anyone have a, like, where did my phone go? My daughter took away my phone. Mm,
It's 47.
47 raised to the power 47. So do you guys get this equation? So in the first year, you're going to get a salary of HS. You're 18 right now. So when you're not going to college. Okay. So in the 19th, when you're 19th, you're going to get HS. When you're 20, you're going to get HS by 1 plus R. And when you're 21, you're going to get HS divided by 1 plus R square, and then cube, and so on so forth. And you will be working till 65. So you like, when you're 65th birthday, you're going to get HS divided by 1 plus R raised to the power 47. Okay, so this is your basically, because you're going to you're not going to college, there is no cost associated with it. All right. Now, the net benefit with university or college degree is PVU is, remember, you have to be in the university for 4 years and the cost is how much? C. So basically there's a minus sign, right? And in the first year you're spending C, and in the second year you're spending C divided by 1 plus R. Okay, and in the third year you're going to spend C by 1 plus R square. Okay, in the fourth year you are going to spend minus C by 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be 1 plus R cube. Okay, now that means this is your cost of your education. So basically we are lumping all the psychological opportunity cost and explicit cost, everything in C. Okay, in your fourth year, so basically fifth year from 18th, you're going to get your first salary U, right? So U divided by 1 plus R to the power, raised to the power 5, right? So raised to the power 5. Okay, plus, and this will continue till U divided by 1 plus R. At what age? Up to what age? Tell me.
It's up
65.
to 47.
Is it going to be still 47?
That's 47.
Yes, very good. Excellent. Raised to the power 47. So now you have two net present value of net benefit from going to college and not going to college. So you will only invest in a university degree if PVU is greater than PVHS. All right, does it make sense? Hmm? This is a very simple situation. You can actually introduce that, okay, I'm going to have experience counted. So we kept U as a constant, but you can have some sort of like, increase in, introduce some sort of like, formula to increase U over time as well. So you can say UT and UT plus 1, UT plus 2. So each year of like, it passes, you are multiplying with a bigger numbers to make, to indicate that your higher incomes at age increases, your experience is accounted for you and you get higher and higher salary, right? So there are many ways you can complicate this, but the basically the message remains the same. Okay, so the one complexity you can introduce is like, to introduce, we are just keeping these returns U and this C and this HS constant, but it can also increase, right? There can be, you can introduce some sort of like, formula to account for the years. As more years go by, your salary also increases. That can be built into this equations as well. So that's one thing. So is this clear? Like, how people decide whether to invest in an education or not? They just calculate the present value of streams, like net benefit streams, and compare with and without education. If, like with education is better, then they go for it. If not, then they don't go for it. So you might think, how can this be, professor? Like with education it should always be higher. Not necessarily, right? Usually this should be the norm, right? With higher education there should be higher return, and this net benefit should be high, like in higher. But what happens is, think about Africa, right? And think about like certain countries, because of HIV/AIDS, right? Their life expectancy is 39, right? It's when the, like the, that's with the, if you look at the age pyramid, that's the most productive age of a person. And they die at that, on average that's the life expectancy. They, on average they die around that age. So now for them to invest, like stay in school for 22 years when they are going to die, like 17, like years from that, is very costly. They would rather say, no, I want to start working, I don't want to invest in education, because the C is going to be very high. University education is expensive. So it's better for me not to incur this cost, because I don't get to reap the benefit of my education for longer period of time. But if you compare it in Japan, everybody goes to, like at least they have a master's degree, because like they stay, like alive, their life expectancy is in the 90s, they live till 100, past 100. So in that, in their situation, okay, because if they work till 65, they will have a higher retirement payment and all that. So they tend to invest in education, because they will reap the benefit of education for longer period of time. And also this, like the cost of education matters in developing countries, and also in, like also in some developed countries as well. College education, like bachelor's degree is very expensive, but tertiary education is free. Like if you go to Europe, Germany, and like most of the countries in excuse me, most of the education in, like tertiary level of education, university level of education, master's degree, are free, right? So because they encourage people to invest in education. But if you consider the developing countries, it's the other way around, it becomes very expensive, right? To like the more education you get, the more costlier it becomes, not only in terms of the direct tuition payment, but also in terms of the opportunity cost, the foregone earnings. Okay. So what happens is the C is also a big determinant. If the cost is very high, if you think about, like Uganda or some other countries where the HIV/AIDS, the rate is very high. In those countries, if C is very high, nobody is going to invest in education. Okay, because they're not going to live longer, and the cost is higher. And if C is like minimal, think about Germany, and then they are going to live till like 100, everybody is going to invest in education. And the more education you have, the country is going to grow at a faster pace, because the workforce, remember, labor and capital, output is a function of labor and capital. If your labor is very productive, it can use the capital more efficiently. So the, like cross elasticity of capital with respect to labor, like that's going to be, how they are, they are complementary to some extent, right? Without labor you cannot actually, like operate the capital. So if your labor is more effective in using the existing capital, your output increases at a faster pace, right? Even with the same level of resources, you, because of efficiency increases, you are going to increase your, have a greater growth rate. So that logic you can see, like how it, like trickles down to the investment model. Because that's why you see the Germany, very technological advanced countries, they are making tertiary level of education free, because they are already technologically advanced. They need very skilled workforce to reap the most out of their technological innovation. Okay, so that's why they are making their tertiary level of education free, to give the incentive. So all the C's that you have here is zero. Okay, only the foregone earning, that the 4 years of earning. But not only that, if they go for higher education, they receive stipend from the university to compensate for their foregone earning. how much they encourage people to invest in education. Okay, so there are lots of, things, very interesting, like papers are written on this. I hope, you go to university, do a master's and do it on labor economics. It's a fascinating subject, and you get to know more. Okay. So now the factors that influence human capital. You can also just, you don't have to just like look at this. Can you see the slides, or what are you seeing? Like the whiteboard or the slides still? I don't know. All right. So if you have understood this, you understand that you're dividing by R. What is R? R is the rate of interest that is discounting your present value. Since you're dividing by R and you know that it's becoming in a, it's a arithmetic progression, you're increasing, like, and this increasing raised to the power R, like 1 by R, and then it's increasing the more in the future you're going, right? So you're, when it's squared and like, and it's cubed, and like, if you raise the power more and more, the your denominator becomes bigger. So the bigger the R, right, that means the lower is the benefit of getting higher education. Okay. The age of the individual. Okay. If you retire at 65 versus if you retire at 40, or if you retire at 80, right, that will determine how much you will invest in your education. The cost of education, the value of C, the 4 years you have to invest in your education, and the foregone earning, that is also important. The wage differential between high school and college graduates, because if there is not much wage differential, right, and the cost C is very high, the likelihood of investing in education will be smaller, right? So these are some determinants that will, influence your decision to invest in education. So basically this is all I had to say for today. Any question? Nothing. All right. Any question on the, on your exam for Tuesday? Nothing. Good. um I want to raise a concern, because we are having our second exam on this Tuesday, and then the third exam at the end of November, and the fourth exam on the exam week. So exam week, I think December 7th, so it will be around December 15th or something, or like at least in the second week of December. So that gives us, we are fine in terms of four exam. But what will happen to our fifth exam? So that is where my concern is. So instead of like having the fifth exam like back to back, maybe in the first day of the exam week period and the last day of the exam week period, we can have a, a written assignment, right? A small paper of 2 pages, right? um, and that will substitute for the fifth exam. So four exams that we are going to have and one paper, and that paper is going to be due, at the end of the exam period. Okay, and it's going to be very simple. It can be like, maybe I can ask you to look at the this education model, compare maybe the earnings, average earnings of um, college university graduates versus across the countries, 5 or 6 countries in South Asia or Southeast Asia, around Asia, like maybe 5 countries in Asia, and the average level of education, and see if you have a positive correlation or not. Something like this is a very small paper, small exercise. So what do you think, right? What do you prefer? It's up to you, because I'm changing the syllabus at the middle. No, 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 this chapter will not be only chapter 4, elasticity and labor supply. Those two are the syllabus for your exam. So all the things that we have covered after, chapter 8 and this compensating wage differential and this chapter, they are not included um in your exam. Okay. So You guys think about it, like, I will maybe give you countries, 10 countries or 5 countries, then I will ask you to collect, like, the average level of, like, graduates, university graduates, and their average earnings, right? And then compare across the countries and see if you see any sort of trend, right, over time.
Professor, I think the homework is quite good. I mean, like the final assignment is quite good. And my concern is that can you set up the exam next Tuesday before the class? I mean, like at the beginning of the class, because after that I have work to do, so I may leave a little bit early. Yeah.
Okay. No, no, we will have the
Yes.
exam at the, like, exactly, like, because I'm asking if there is no concerns today, so that means there's no reason to, like, delay the start of the exam. So we will have the exam on time, um, at the
Oh, yes,
beginning.
right. At the
Okay.
beginning of the class, right?
At the
Yeah.
beginning of the class, yes.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, guys, think about it. You don't have to answer to me right now. So basically, I haven't written the, like, the structure of the assignment yet. I have to think about but it's going to be something like this on education, human capital. I might ask you to look at the, like, the average level of, like, high school number, the percentage of population in who completed high school, who completed primary, who completed, like, bachelor's, and who completed masters, and look at the average salary. So these are available in the World Bank, like, every country has some annual report, right? And their statistical, like Bangladesh has Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, and they publish reports. So these are publicly available, like, especially the and human development report, they also have it for every country every year. So you can collect these data, let's say for 5 or 6 countries, and see whether actually you see that the average salary increases with education or not. So that's the first thing you can do. And then you can compare across country, that which country has the highest return. So, like, let's say with the same level of education, which country has basically and compare across countries as well. Okay, so very simple exercise. I don't know. She's not in the meeting, but she's sending me messages. It's very strange. Anyways, so is this clear what I want from you? It's going to be 2-page assignment. So think about it, and, like, you can tell me in next class, and then I will basically structure the whole problem and post it, and it's going to be due at the end of the exam week. Okay?
Professor,
Yes.
I emailed you to talk with you because I have some question. So
Can
I
you call
need it
WhatsApp?
very much. So can you give me some time
Yes,
after
yes.
class?
I was writing to you. So just call me in WhatsApp, right? You can call me today, you can call me tomorrow. Do you have my
Okay,
number?
Professor. No, Professor. Can you give me?
Okay, you guys, everyone write down. My number is 0175 172 9921.
Professor, can you repeat?
0175
Mhm.
172
One.
9921. This is
Thank
my
you, Professor.
WhatsApp number, right? My phone number and WhatsApp number, Viber number, all this is the same number. So call me in WhatsApp so that you don't have to pay for the call. Okay? You can
Thank you,
call me
Professor.
after class today, you can call me tomorrow, whenever, right?
Okay, Professor.
Okay? So everyone else, is there any question? No? Even though this chapter seems very easy, but the math that we did it may not be because of I might change these things, right? So pay attention to these things when we have exams on this chapter. I will post some practice problems, but learn this by heart. Okay. All right. So if there is no question, I will end my lecture today. Just a second. Someone had something in the chat. Let me check. Oh my God! For some reason, it's blurred. Mohima. Yes, yes, you will get it. So once you give me your decision this Tuesday, whether you want the final paper or you want the fifth exam, then I will post you the assignment. But the assignment is very straightforward. As I said, it's just going to, I'm going to ask you to collect data on several countries in South, because we are in Asia, several countries in Asia, and just look at their, the difference in going from high primary to secondary, secondary to like college, and college to university, masters, and look at the average earning, whether you see a positive relationship, and whether how you compare across countries. So that's all I want from this paper. So you have to get some data, maybe plot them in Excel, right? See if there is a positive correlation or not. Um, so I think this is a good exercise. Very simple, but it will give you some experience in writing papers. This is what you're going to do if you join any organization that does any sort of research. Okay, so let me know by Tuesday. Think about it, because if there is not a unanimous decision, then we will go for the fifth exam. Because if I change the syllabus in the middle, right, because this is related to your grade, I need your consent. Otherwise, I cannot do it. Okay, so let me know. If one person objects and says, no, professor, I want the exam, we will go for the exam. Okay, so think about it, and then we will act accordingly. All right.
Okay, Professor.
Okay, so I'm gonna end the lecture right now, and I'll post everything on the website. All right, you guys take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay,
Thank you,
goodbye.
Professor.
Okay,
Thank you.
goodbye. Thank you. You're welcome.